You're listening to Wellness Junkies.
where wellness gets real, not perfect.
Welcome to Wellness Junkies, where we try all the wellnessy things, spill the beauty tips, and have real conversations, all with a side of fun.
We're in it learning together with you.
I'm Amy.
And I'm Katie. Let's get into it.
If you've ever felt like the wellness space is a little too much, we get it. Enter the Wellness Junkies newsletter, which gives you quick, no fluff updates on what's worth trying, what actually works, how to make wellness feel doable. Think insider finds, expert tips with a dose of good energy in your inbox each week. It's quick, it's easy, it's a fun read. We're all figuring it out together, and our newsletter just keeps it real and not perfect. Subscribe at substack.com/@wellnessjunkies and join the community. Welcome back to Wellness Junkies. It's Amy, and I'm very excited to have a very different topic on the show today, which you'll hear about soon. I have Cloe Parker, the CEO of Parker Pastures, and this is just a topic we haven't discussed before, so I'm really excited to talk through meat and what we should know and all of the things. At just 19 years old, Cloe took over her family's meat company after her mom was diagnosed with cancer. Rooted in deep love for agriculture and awakened to the hidden truths of our modern food system, Cloe is passionate about providing families with nutrient-dense meat and helping them reconnect to what's real. And with so much out there, I'm so glad to have an expert here talking to us about nutrition and meat. Welcome to the show, Cloe. It's so good to have you here. And she's calling in from Colorado, one of my favorite places.
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm very excited to have this conversation because it's very hard to know what meat to get or food in general. So thank you for having this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times you just kind of look on the shelf and there's a million things going on and you see organic and grass-fed and like no one really, I mean, unless you really know the space, you don't really know what any of it means. So before we get into it, just tell us about your background a little bit and what Parker Pastures does.
My parents started Parker Pastures when I was super little. My mom, especially, was just super passionate about providing. I have two younger brothers, providing us with just like high quality meat raised in a way that's healing to the environment. And I've always loved agriculture and known that's going to be something I was going to do. And then after high school, I went and worked on some different ranches. And then my mom, got diagnosed with cancer. So I immediately
I'm
came back.
sorry.
And thank you. Came back here and just kind of jumped in and just wanted to help my family in any way that I could. And that just led to me realizing the importance of high quality meat. And that was something I never had to worry about growing up. Like we just went to the freezer and there was always good meat and didn't have to question it. And I realized how important it is for all of us because we should all have access to food that heals us, not harms us. So then right before I turned 20, I officially took over Parker Pastures. From my parents. And then a couple months later, my mom went to heaven. And so now I get to carry on her legacy. And we provide families across the nation with grass-fed, grass-finished beef, pasture-raised chicken, grass-fed and grass-finished bison and lamb. Just deliver boxes of meat across the nation just to provide families with clean meat because like I will probably talk about, there's a lot of like questionable things in our meat and in our food in general. And it's hard to know if what you're feeding yourself and your family is actually like good for you.
Right, and good quality. So let's get into grass-fed, you see it on every label or a lot of labels. How do we decode all these different labels, what things mean, what's legitimate, what's not?
Yeah. So let's start with the label grass fed. There's actually no regulations around it. There used to be, but in 2016, they stopped regulating it. So the label grass fed usually vaguely means that a cow ate grass some point of its life. But the difference is about 95% of beef are fed corn or grain at the end of their life, which completely screws up the omega-3, omega-6 ratio, creating way more omega-6s, leading to inflammation. And it just affects the quality of the meat, and then it affects us when we eat it. So the label grass-fed actually is not as good as it seems because it's like there's no regulations, and usually most of that beef is fed corn at the end of its life. The term grass finished, that means that a cow ate grass at the end of her life. And so ideally, if it's grass fed, grass finished, or lifetime grazed or something like that, what we want is a cow that ate grass and was on pasture her entire life or his entire life, because that just is going to be the most nutrient dense, and is just kind of originally how cattle are designed, is to eat grass and convert it into either meat or milk.
So the label should say grass finished, and, like, is that regulated? Like, can people like, that's what's confusing to me because I didn't realize this about the regulation you were just talking about. So, what is regulated then in this industry? Like, how do you know, like, if someone puts like you're saying, it sounds like the people manufacturers could put grass-fed if they've had grass at some point in their life, but not necessarily the right way. So is that the same for grass finished, or does that have more regulations, or how do you kind of know, what's regulated or what you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, based on like all my research and everything I've seen, none of it's regulated. So what I've come to learn is really looking at the color and the taste. And so
Mm,
if beef is grass fed, grass finished, like it only ate grass its entire life, the meat color is going to be kind of like a ruby red. Versus like a lot of meat in the store is kind of like a bright pink red.
yeah.
And that is because they can package it. It's called modified atmospheric packaging. And it takes carbon monoxide and a few other gases, and when they package that meat, they package it with those gases, and then that keeps it that color because otherwise, else, when meat is exposed to air, it starts oxidizing. Um, and so, to keep it fresh looking, that's how they package it, and so that's why it's super bright red versus like
Gross.
real beef, like grass fed, grass finished, is it's gonna be like a ruby red color, and then the fat is gonna be more of like a yellow color.
Mhm.
Um, and that's because of the beta carotenes and the grass that the cattle are eating versus grain finished beef, which is most beef in America. It's gonna be a white fat.
Mm.
So looking at color and then also the taste. Like beef should have a lot of flavor. Like you should like taste something. I notice when I eat beef that I like don't know where it came from or how it was raised. It's like very bland.
Mhm.
There's not like a lot of flavor. And so looking for like does it actually have like taste and flavor? Um in times I've, like, went to the grocery store and just, like, done investigation, none of these things
Yeah,
have, like
I saw that on your Instagram. You have really good content about that.
Thank you. Yeah, and, like, none of those things I've found, like, meat that I'd be like, "Yeah, I would stand behind that," because it's hard to know if the label actually means what it says. Also, all of that meat at the grocery store is, always fresh, and what happens with that is it slowly loses nutrients over time. And so like our beef is flash frozen. So as soon as it's processed, it's frozen and then that locks in all the nutrients. And then you don't have to worry about like how long ago was this actually harvested and how long has it been just like sitting there. Because most meat at the grocery store is wet aged. So it just kind of sits in its own like juice and blood in it, whatever, for like months at a time and they can still sell it.
So
Um,
gross.
yeah, and so it's like that's why I'm like that's one reason I'm like I can't do it. It's too gross. And so I've just come to learn usually like going directly to the source is the best way because then you can ask all those questions. And usually most of the time that meat is flash frozen. Um but yeah, that's kind of what I've come to learn just like looking at different labels and trying different meats.
Yeah, that actually makes sense because if, like, I'll go to a local farmer's market and I buy meat, it's always frozen. Like, they have so that would make sense that yeah, I didn't really think about the fact because 'cause you're right, like, even if you go to Whole Foods, it's like it's organic, grass fed, whatever, but it's sitting out and it's not frozen. It's just kind of like in the case. And you're right. I don't know how long it's been sitting out. So I have to rethink my my strategy when I'm shopping for meat. Okay. And so the color thing, I never realized. I mean, now that you're saying it, I do realize that like there are different colors. I just like didn't really, I mean, I just kind of, I don't know, I try to get organic and figure it's okay. What is healthier for you, beef or bison?
Totally depends on how it was raised. Even most bison is fed grain and they're in like feedlots at the end of their life. Um, and so it's totally dependent on like if it's beef or bison and it's grass fed and grass finished and that animal ate grass and was on pasture the entire its entirety of its life, both of those options are great. But
Okay.
most of the time, both bison and beef are in a feedlot at the end of their life, and just like in a confined area where they're fed usually corn with other grains, antibiotics, who knows what else is mixed in there. Yeah, so that's why it's like super important that that animal is eating grass, no matter what kind of ruminant animal that is.
Okay, so it's really about the way that it's raised versus like the type of meat. And then if we're looking for a few different things, we want it to say grass fed and grass finished and organic, I assume. Or I don't know, or is there controversy about that too? I feel like now that's like a blanket.
The things that I would look for, whether that's in a label or that's like, you know, where you're buying it from and they can back these up, is you want it to be grass fed, grass finished. So it's eating grass its entire life. A
Mhm.
product, you want it to be raised in the US because I think it discontinues in 2026, but right now, like meat can be imported and then cut up and then labeled product of the USA. So you want it
Oh,
raised
wow.
in America. And ideally frozen to lock in those nutrients. And then you just want it to look good, look like beef, like have a
Right.
yellow fat, be ruby red color, and those would kind of be like the main things that I would look for or ask questions about when buying beef. And then for chicken, chicken gets even more gross because it's like 97% of chicken is dunked in a bleach bath at processing to,
What?
yeah, to like get rid of hopefully to mitigate E. coli and salmonella, but the chicken can absorb that water. And so on packages of chicken, if it doesn't specifically say air chilled, there's like little fine print that says usually it's like 3 or 5% retained water. And so not only are you paying for water and not chicken, but it was also most likely put in a bleach bath at processing. And so like things to look for chicken, like you want it air chilled and you want it to be pasture raised. And also it's like it should not have most like chicken breasts at the store are like gigantic.
I know, it's so
Um
gross. I never buy those big ones.
yeah, like that's so not natural. And so like getting something that like looks like an not an obese chicken pretty much. Like chicken, that is something that I'm like even more like definitely know where that's from. Yeah, so those are kind of like the things to look for and think about when buying meat, just kind of the basics.
And should the chicken be frozen as well, ideally?
Yep.
Yeah. And then this is also the case for if it's like ground meat, because I buy a lot of ground meat. I feel like from like the color should be that ruby red. It should have all of this like same thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. For Parker Pastures, so people can just buy directly from you online. Like, how do you distribute?
We wanna make it super easy because I know how, like, confusing and logistical it can get. So parkerpastures.com, we have 3 different options. If you want, like, individual cuts, like, kind of choose whatever steaks or maybe chicken or whatever and just kind of choose that. We have a buy the box option. So if you want just, like, a box of meat, kinda think butcher box, like, delivered to your door as a subscription, that's definitely a great option. And then the last option, which is kind of like the rancher's secret and something that I always recommend, is going to be getting like filling up a chest freezer with either quarter, half, or whole cow. That gets you the best, that's always going to be the best price per pound. And then you get all of the cuts for like your steaks, your ground beef, all of it's the same price per pound. Usually other times you're going to pay more for steaks and less for ground beef. And so like a good rule of thumb with that is like a quarter cow is going to be around like 100 pounds of meat. And that's great for like an individual or a couple for a year. And then a half cow is usually like around 200 pounds of meat. And that's great for like a family of 3 or 4 for usually like a year, a little less than. And then a whole cow is great if you want to like split it amongst friends, or if you just want to have a bunch of beef in the freezer. It's usually closer to like 400 pounds of meat. But that is like usually the best way to get just buying meat in bulk, no matter how you're doing it. But anyways, parkerpastures.com for just kind of like all those options. And then we just have insulated boxes with dry ice delivered right to your door. So it's super easy. And then you'll notice that the taste and color of the meat is probably different than like store-bought meat.
Right. So if someone does, obviously, ordering it through Parker Pastures is ideal, but if someone doesn't want to do that or they want to pick up something from the store, right? Like, do you have a recommendation on like what are the best markets to get meat? I mean, to me, it seems like a farmer's market or something that's like coming from a local farm would probably be the most ideal. But like, if someone doesn't have access to that, what are your favorite markets? Or maybe not favorite, but if you had to choose a market to buy meat from, is it a Whole Foods? Is it where would someone go if they didn't want to, order it online?
Honestly, I don't recommend any stores because I have also seen just like heard the behind the scenes of things. So I would recommend like a local farmers market, or you can just like look up like local farmers in your area, or like have it shipped to your door.
Right.
And any of those options are like that's super convenient, especially if you want it like delivered to your door. Like you don't even have to
Yeah. I
go
mean,
to a
it's
farmer's
funny because
market.
the more and more we learn about this space, I feel like I keep hearing about people just ordering. I don't eat that much meat, so if I'm making something for my family, I'll just pick something up. But moving forward, it does make sense to just buy it in bulk, keep it frozen, and not have to worry about it and know you're getting the right ingredients. How long can you keep meat frozen? I never know.
The USDA recommends a year, but I've had like meat just in the personal freezer for like much longer than that. And it's totally fine. As long as the packaging's good and there's no holes, then it'll last like multiple years.
Really? I didn't even realize that you could stretch it that long. And then when you're going to cook it, because I always like, I'll take it out like the night before or something. Is that what you recommend doing? Just like put it in the fridge the night before? Because you were talking about how it loses nutrients. So if you do that, like, are you losing the nutrients like by defrosting it the night before?
Because it's just like that short period, I don't think it's that big a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the night before, that's a great way to do it, or like a cold water bath for a couple hours. But yeah, those are great ways to defrost it.
Okay. And what have you seen kind of over the past 10 years as it relates to this industry? Has it gotten more complicated, like what are you kind of seeing? Challenges, good things that have happened? Like there's always just so much conversation, I feel like, about this category.
I think there's been a lot of just like focus on the importance of whether we're talking beef or vegetables or whatever, of like where does our food come from, which is really exciting. And just kind of like, yeah, our health is tied to what we eat and it does matter. But I've also seen a lot of just like label loopholes and things, kind of like I was explaining earlier,
Yeah.
where it makes it like harder to trust things. But just in like conversations and things I've heard, I think some things we're transitioning to is like, is our food actually nutrient dense? And can you see that there's actual nutrients in it? Because, like, over the last 50, 100 years, like, take an apple, for example, it's lost like 50 to 70% of its nutritional value. And that's because of kind of how we grow food and the decline of the health of our soil. And I think there's just like with the Make America Healthy Again and just like those kind of conversations, I'm hopeful that we're going to realize that food is so important to our health. And I think that's starting to be a conversation. But the other side of that coin is less than 2% of the entire population grows our food, and 2/3 of American farmer and ranchers are over the age of 60. And there's just not a lot of like my generation, like up and coming. And so I think it's just like really important that like, however any of us buy food, like, that's how we're voting for our food to be grown, and so, like, now more than ever, we need small family farms and ranches, and we need access to that, but we also need them to thrive. Because if we don't have people growing our food, it's either gonna be big corporations or we're importing it, or it's not gonna be a great option. So, I think that's definitely something that has been on my mind a lot of, yeah, we need more people growing food.
Yeah, for sure. I know it's inspiring to see you doing this at you're so young to be leading this company and spreading all of this knowledge because it is really important. And I think the younger generation is more in tune with what they're eating now and like labels. Even with my kids, like I'll make sure that they're reading the labels and like not eating things that have too many ingredients or like explaining, these sorts of things. And so hopefully there's a better awareness of what you're eating because it is like the most important thing. So, taking the attention a little bit away from this, just in general, I kind of want to hear about your lifestyle and like life on the ranch because I just think it's so cool what you're doing and it's so different than most people I talk to. So, I just kind of want to hear about what your daily routine is out there in Colorado. I'm sure it's so beautiful with the mountains.
It is very gorgeous. Honestly, the last couple years, my, like, daily life has definitely transitioned to more, like, time on the computer and in meetings and stuff, just
Yeah.
like the
How long have you been running the company for?
2 wait, yeah, 2 years. Yeah, and so, yeah, definitely a lot of, like, office time, but also, like, I love agriculture and the actual ranching. So, like,
Yeah.
yesterday, I was just, like, checking on some cows, and then the sun was shining, I just sat in the middle of the field, and all the cows, like, gathered around me,
Ah,
and it was just, like, so peaceful, and they're just, like, so curious, so it was, like, I had to be really still to see if they'd come close, and some of them were, like, coming, and they were, like, having their nose, like, smell me, and so, like, those are, like, some of my favorite
that's
moments.
amazing.
Yep.
How big is the ranch?
We have our kind of like headquarters, and then I work with a few other ranches that kind of do exactly same thing as me. And so, I mean, between all of them, I have no idea. Probably, I mean, multiple thousands of acres.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That is, yeah, it's just it's very unique. I mean, I don't talk to a lot of people like you, so I think it's really unique that you're doing this, and it just seems like such a. I'm sure it's obviously a lot of hard work, but it just also must be so rewarding. And being with nature and being out on the ranch all the time, it just seems like idyllic. I'm just like envisioning it. It seems so nice. One of the other things that we do on this show, being that this is a wellness and beauty podcast, and we like to talk about obviously good health and eating well, we also talk about wellness and routines. And do you have, other than eating meat, obviously, because like it, vitamins, minerals, so good for you. Like, what is your favorite wellness or beauty hack? Share with us.
I mean, kind of took my main one of eating beef. um, uh, I think the other one is just something I've learned just like growing up ranching is it's very interconnected with nature and the animals. And so doing something every day if I can, but just like something that like connects me and grounds me, whether that's like going on a hike or checking cows or seeing some of my family or just like doing something that is real and like not on a device and not
Hmm.
scrolling through social media but just like connection to something that is real. I think that's something that I definitely live my life by and notice if I don't do that, that I will feel different versus like if I am outside or if I'm spending my morning in quiet time or just like whatever that thing is.
Yeah. No, that's good. I know that's reminding me I didn't get to do my daily walk this morning and I definitely feel off. For those of you listening, when I first got on the podcast, I was like, "Wait, where's my mic?" Like I was like scattered. I feel like if you don't have that time with nature and that sunlight and just that like fresh air, your day kind of just starts differently. And then you kind of answered this, but how do you maintain your daily balance, your daily nirvana? Like how do you keep, because you're running a big business and I'm sure it's a lot of logistics, and like how do you kind of keep everything calm and balanced as you go through your day?
Honestly, for me, the biggest thing is my faith
Mhm.
and, just that this is not about me, and this is a calling God's put upon my life, and just, like, yeah, letting that be, like, my peace and my strength. I think that has been, like, huge and the reason I'm not stressed to the max.
Mhm.
And then also just eating good food, really. Like, it does
Yeah.
make such a difference. I know that if I eat sugar, I'm gonna be way off and, like, I'm not gonna feel as good versus if I eat, like, really well and a ton of I know that I naturally need a ton of protein, and that just kinda helps everything. So that's kind of more just like a tactical thing that I do is just, like,
Yeah.
food.
Yeah. No, I love that perspective. And then tell our audience where they can find you. So parkerpastures.com you said, but then on Instagram, give us all your details because I know you have really helpful content.
Thank you. ParkerPastures.com to order, and then, Parker Pastures Grass Fed on Instagram.
Awesome. Are you on TikTok or just Instagram?
I haven't dabbled in the whole TikTok thing yet.
Well, you have great content and it's really helpful. And I learned a lot just from once you've reached out and I started investigating. You have just really good stuff and trustworthy stuff because there's just so much out there. And I just think more and more it's really hard to find legitimate sources and you're the real deal and your meat is good quality meat. So we're all going to be coming to you for our meat as we move forward. And thank you for being on the show. I learned a lot and definitely learned now next time in the store what not to do, but I'm probably not going to be buying meat at a store anytime soon. So I'm like grossed out by the whole thing.
Yeah, I know. It's the amount of times I've told people this where I'm like, "Yeah, sorry for sharing all that because it's kinda gross."
I know.
But
Well,
yeah,
people
well,
don't
thank you.
know. I mean, the majority of people are just shopping in the grocery. Like they're not thinking
Yeah.
about it. And like people really need to think about not only meat, right? It's vegetables. It's like everything you're buying, like where it's coming from. And it's just really important. I feel like everything hopefully needs to kind of turn back to the basics. Like from back in the day when people just like ate fresh food and it's just turned completely on its head. And now I hopefully we're starting to like peel it back a little bit and like really be more intentional about the food that we're consuming and buying.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, definitely. That's like when because there's just so much information about just food and health and all of that. And something I like constantly remind myself of just go back to, yeah, just like original design, how it was. And it's like, that's just good, clean, like beef from a Calidate grass that's phoned down to watch a sunset. That's vegetables and fruit from the ground and not highly processed. And like that's family dinners with no devices and just like those things. And then it can be like simple and it's like, okay, that's doable.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show and sharing all of your insight. Really, really helpful. We appreciate you and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Wellness Junkies. For more on today's episode, follow us on Instagram at Wellness Junkies Official and find us on TikTok and YouTube at Wellness Junkies. You can also head to wellnessjunkiesofficial.com for expanded show notes, product links, and more. If you love the episode, leave a review and share it with a friend. We appreciate the love. Catch you next week. Bye.